Whether you've been walking this off-grid road with us for a while now or you've just found your way here, I'm glad you're here with us. Today we're going to be in the kitchen, preserving the taste of autumn. I'll be taking you through how we harvest, cook and preserve our homegrown beetroot, some tiny and some massive. I'll also show you how we cook our sweet potato leaves, an earthy dish that just came together with what we had on hand. So I've pulled up the beetroot and I've chopped up the leaves. You can actually eat the leaves as well, but we're not going to today. We're going to give them to the chooks. Then I've just washed the beetroots. I dropped the beets into a pot of boiling water for about 20 minutes. They say you should make sure that they're all the same size so they cook evenly, but I just cooked what I had and they turned out fine. Just tender enough to slice and still holding their shape well. You're supposed to peel them after boiling, but I forgot this time. Never mind, you can eat the skin anyway, so I just go ahead and slice them up. Look how divine that red looks. The jars were simmering while I made the brine and the pickling spice. 10 minutes to sterilise, then I set them out on a clean towel. So I put in 2.5 cups of vinegar, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 cup of water, and I started making the pickling spice. For the pickling spice, I didn't use anything from a packet. I made it myself the old way. I used some cinnamon, rich and fragrant, and added 5 crushed bay leaves, then 2 tablespoons of mustard seeds, plus a tablespoon each of whole allspice, coriander seeds and black peppercorns. Then I added some ground ginger, some dill seeds and a touch of cardamom. I finished with a teaspoon of cloves and just a pinch of chili flakes, enough to give it backbone. I tied a few tablespoons into a little square of cheesecloth, like a little sachet of memory, and dropped it into the pot with the vinegar, water and sugar. As it simmered, the scent changed in the air. It smelled like stories passed down, like something worth keeping. After 10 to 15 minutes, I pulled the jars out that were sterilised and the brine was ready. I pulled out the spice bag and added the sliced beets. The liquid turned ruby red, sweet and sharp, soaking in everything it had touched. I find the wide mouth jars make things much easier, especially if you're new to doing all this stuff. You're meant to use new lids every time you do this kind of thing. I know there is a way of using old lids, but I usually buy the new ones. So I just used some tongs to get the beet slices out and put them in the jars. Then I poured the hot brine over the top of them to just under the rim. I then wiped the rims of the jars with a bit of vinegar, put the lids on and screwed the caps on finger tight. Then it was time for the water bath canning. So I returned the jars to the canner or the big pot of boiling water and made sure the water covered them fully. And sorry for all the back shots. I realised I had my camera angle all wrong in this video, but it's hard when you're living off-grid and you have a tiny space to prepare things, and there's not a lot of room for putting the camera anywhere either. I was following the bowl pickled beets recipe for the processing of this, and it says to process or boil your cans for 30 minutes, so that's what I did. So after they've processed for 30 minutes, you turn the canner off, and then I will leave them in the hot water for a further 5 minutes before I take the jars out. And then I had some leftover pickling brine, so I decided to go and grab some of the little cucumbers out of the garden and cut them up and pour the brine over the top of them so they have that nice sweet pickle on them for our sandwiches and burgers and things like that. And actually, when I used them, Paul actually thought that he was eating beetroot, that there was beetroot on his burger. So they just took in all that flavour and it was beautiful. And as I was doing this, the lids of the cans of beetroot that I just processed started to pop, and that sound means that they're sealed and safe, which is something that it's good to keep for later.
I've been lying here for too long. I don't know what else to do. I wanna get away from every little thing just to try to make it through. I've been thinking about my options, every detail in my head, but it doesn't really matter, nothing matters, so I cry instead.
Then it was on to dinner, a mushroom and sweet potato leaf lasagna. The paper bag from the mushrooms will go into the compost, and I'd peel the outside of these large flat mushrooms, and the peelings will go to the buckets for the chooks. So we have one bucket for the chooks, one bucket for the worms, and one bucket for the compost in the kitchen, which makes it really handy.
I've been staying up all night. Everything I ever worked for vanished in the blink of an eye. I've been asking every question, 'cause I haven't got a clue. Why's it gotta be me? What the hell am I supposed to do? I've been running circles, trying to catch my breath. I've been trying everything I can, but I ain't got nothing left. And I know there's so much more to this life, but it's hard to see it clearly.
While I'm cooking the mushrooms, I'll wash and basically take the leaves off these sweet potato and chop them up into smaller pieces. I'm throwing the mushrooms in the pan with some hot olive oil to brown. The browning matters. Don't crowd the pan.
I've been trying everything I can, but I ain't got nothing left. I've been running circles, trying to catch my breath. I've been trying everything I can. I ain't got nothing left.
So I made a cheese sauce with butter and gluten-free flour and lactose-free milk. And then I added some ricotta cheese and some mozzarella cheese, salt and pepper, herbs, all of that sort of thing.
I've been lying here for too long. I don't know what else to do. I wanna get away from every little thing just to try to make it through. I've been thinking about my options, every detail in my head.
So I layered the lasagna sheets with the sauce, the mushrooms, and the greens, and then I basically just put it in the barbecue oven and baked it till it bubbled gold, probably about 40 minutes. I realised afterwards, after all the greens had sautéed down and shrunken, that it would have been probably good if I had have used the beet greens with this lasagna as well. Oh well, maybe next time. And make sure you use the instant lasagna, not the ones that you need to boil first. This lasagna turned out amazingly. It had the best taste. It was earthy and rich, real food. But next time I think I might try putting the leaves in pasta instead and let them take the lead. Or maybe I'll add some pumpkin and other vegetables to it as well.
I haven't got a clue. Why's it gotta be me?
As I was finishing up making this dish, a cool breeze came through the kitchen window. Cool and clean as it brushed across my forehead, like the touch of an old friend I hadn't seen in a while. I stopped, closed my eyes, and just let it be. It felt like a reminder from the world outside that I'm part of something bigger than jars and recipes and what I got done today. That breeze, just for a moment, lifted everything heavy off my shoulders. No words, no effort, just air. It was gentle but sure, like it knew me. I felt like it was whispering that winter's coming soon. The light's already thinner in the mornings, the soil takes longer to dry, and in the evening the shadows stretch out like they're making room for the cold. In our next video, I'm going to show you how Paul's been coming along with the veranda on the outside of the shed. It's actually coming along a lot quicker than I thought, and it's becoming something we're really proud of. So until then, stay wild. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you came.